I was flicking through the used car section just the other day and I came across one of these, the Renault 5 Turbo. Now, I would have given my left nut back in the day to own one of these little pocket rockets. And when I saw this one with this metallic sort of diffused paint, I just had to buy it in Gran Turismo. We're going to put it on the track and we are going to shoot it, see what we can get. Now, I couldn't help myself. Straight away, I went in and I made some modifications. And I tried to think, what would I have done had I owned something like this? Now, the first two obvious ones would have been the sports air filter and the silencer, which we have got. Then the high lift cams, and we have the sports brake kit, although this is probably something I would have put on last, and some height adjustable suspension. I actually remember installing that on my little Vauxhall Nova SR, a little SR 1.4. I'm sure it was Spax was the brand, and I dropped it 40-50 mil and the dampers were adjustable. Now, just before we go any further, I did jump into GT Auto and we widened the arches, which makes it look a little bit more aggressive, and we did stick a set of rims on it, and those were the BBS, was it BBS? No, I think it might have been Rays. Yep, that's them there. The Rays 57 Motorsport GT7 WT. Or the first track that came to mind for this would be Brands Hatch. And we're going to go in the evening, and the weather is going to be, I think, sunny with monsoon clouds. Where is that? Sunny with lots of monsoon clouds. I think that's it. This weather preset does deliver some quite nice diffused light. So a little bit different from what we've been shooting in some of the other videos. But first we need to take this little car on the track and get going with it. She is a little bit loosey-goosey. I'd love to see Gran Turismo include this little Renault 5 in the dailies. And you can see that sun sort of poking through there. It's not direct, it is diffusing through the clouds. So you will see the shadows from the cars are a little bit sort of soft along the ground. That's going to make for some smoother gradients, especially on the paint surface, on what you see on this little Renault 5. If you've ever driven one of these Renault 5 turbos, or it's a car that you would love to have getting your hands on, let me know in the comments. Let's just have a quick look coming down the hill here with the sun behind. I love the separation between the track, the car, and then it's just like sky. There's nothing really in between that, but I'm not liking all that glare off the sun, so we'll leave this image. Okay, let's have a look here. I would have loved to have seen more of that Porsche, but let's just, I'm going to lock that off right there. Okay. That's an absolutely fantastic image. There's a lot of glare on the front of the car, but I kind of like the glow that I'm getting from that, and the darkness on this side. There we can still see the Brands Hatch logo on the top. We will save that and we're just going to quickly move on. So it's time to have a look at the edit, and there's two pictures in particular that I shot in this session that I want to take you through. And the first one is this shot right here. And like always, I love to start with gradient masks. And these are a way just to focus the sort of, or take the viewer's eye through the actual picture. You can kind of facilitate that sort of journey just by using gradient masks and creating light or darker spots within the image. So I've pushed this image I would say, as far as I really can. So let's open it up in Photoshop and talk about what works and what doesn't, and what I might change if I was to do this again. Now, there's one thing here that I wish that wasn't there, and that's that Toyota, I think it's a Toyota Hilux, and just in at the back end. So that's one thing I would love to have changed about this. But there's plenty of things that I do like about it. One would be that sense of speed we get running through. The next thing is the way that it's composed. I've left enough area to leave the car room to move into. We've got this massively overexposed portion of the sky up here. And then through the use of gradients, we've got this underexposed area on the right. And it helps push the eye into the center of the frame. Not only that, this little blue car, which is quite a bright color, is completely surrounded by a sort of dark-ish color. So you've got all of these trees here. You've got the dark Brands Hatch signage. You've got the shadow coming across the road, and then all this darkness here, which really helps the sort of subject just pop right out. Now, one other thing I absolutely love about how this image came about is this little bit of glare on the front of the car. It's just reflecting off of this sunlight that's coming in here. And layered into that would be just the lines that we are making here. And you just cannot beat that little boxy look of this iconic 1980s hot hatch. All right, let's check out that second image what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with where this one's kind of ended up. But that said, this is a good example why over editing can actually ruin an image. So let's open this in Photoshop and we'll talk about exactly what I mean by that. Firstly, I'm going to say I think I have overdone the camera angle. I think it's far too aggressive. So if I was to reshoot this, I'd probably bring it back 5 or 10 degrees. I think that would make a much nicer shot. Now, I could do this with cropping, but it kind of defeats the purpose. But one of the things I do like is all of this sunlight coming through here. We're getting some glare bouncing off of the cars and a lot of glare on the side of the Renault 5. The blue color of the car against the tone of the light that's kind of spreading in from this front portion of the image has got a nice sort of opposite balance to it. But when I mentioned over editing, this here is the kind of thing I am talking about. Now you see the transition of the light on the road. Basically, this portion of the light that's hitting the road here, just around those edges, it's very, very muddy. So I would call that over editing. But where we have managed to pull out heaps of color and tone is in fact in the body of the car. But overall, this image has got a nice sense of speed. It's also got a nice sense of scale with these other cars, and you can see the future path of that Renault 5 Turbo coming in, and you can see it's turning around that bend, and you can also see that front left wheel is loaded up. Not only that, the fact that we are running on some curbing on the inside there helps tell the story of that we are in fact heading around a right-hand bend, and we're right in the middle of the action. Now for a before and after, so this is the before shot, and then this is the after. Now that's a massive difference from what we originally shot. We've added way more color and sort of tonal properties to the image, but it's definitely borderline over edited. Now onto the image that I prefer out of the ones we shot in that session. So this is the after, and this is before. So again, we really pushed the pixels here, and we managed to get away with it quite well. We brought out heaps and heaps of colour. We've added a real sort of warmth to the sun. And one of my favourite things of this shot is we can really see what we already said earlier, the sort of biscuit tin boxy shape that this car has got going for it. And it gives you that hit of nostalgia. Again, if you made it this far in the video, let me know if you have ever driven one of these, or even if this little hot hatch car was one of your dream cars when you were growing up, because it was certainly one of mine.